I said I wasn't going to do the Mahomes GOAT conversation against Brady until after Black History Month because I wasn't going to cape for Brady during Black History Month, but fuck it. Why not? We'll do it now. Here's the thing. The gap between Tom Brady and even Joe Montana, who's at 2, is wide as shit. Before the game, they showed that Reid and Mahomes had the third most wins with a coach-quarterback pairing of all time. With 14 before the game, they have 15 now. Brady and Belichick have 30. Tom Brady won another 3 after he left. The gap between Brady and everyone else is so large. Although the hill Mahomes has to climb is steep, at some point, when does it start to feel like we're delaying the inevitable? Now, I know people who've listened to this, y'all know I'm a Patriots fan. Obviously, I grew up on Tom Brady. I'm 27, so the Patriots dynasty run is essentially my entire football life has been watching this Tom Brady Patriots run, right? But I'm a black man before I'm a Patriots fan, and if you've been watching again, I'm doing the Black Quarterback History Month. I'm the president of the Black Quarterback Fan Club. The day that I can say a black man is the best quarterback in NFL history will be a happy day in my life. I don't give a fuck who it's over, right? But there's still a ways to go. And I find it funny how last year after the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, when I said Mahomes is already a top 5 quarterback of all time, I got pushback for it. People like, nah, man, he got to put in a little more work than I was like, why? At that point, it was 2 regular season MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, 2 Super Bowl MVPs. The only people who had more or matched that were Montana, Brady, and Manning. So I had him at 4. I said, cool. Those people played their full entire careers. They're all amazing lifetime achievements, blah, 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 all in the Hall of Fame. Well, Brady will be in the Hall of Fame when the waiting period's up. Granted, hopefully he doesn't unretire again, but still, y'all know what I mean. So comfortably at 4, people were giving me shit for that, saying, oh, you're too early on it. But now everyone wants to tell me he's the greatest quarterback ever. And now I got to tell y'all to simmer the fuck down. The best and the greatest ever do not mean the same thing. Best implies ability, greatness implies accomplishment. If you want to tell me Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback ever, I'm with you. Like, eye test and being this good this early, we ain't never seen no shit like this in our life. First season as a starter, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns. Been in the AFC Championship minimum every year as a starter. This is ridiculous bullshit that we're seeing right now. But when we're talking about the greatest of all time, we are splitting hairs because it's such a peak conversation between these elite talents and elite careers. Like before this weekend, I was watching the Joe Montana doc because I just went down a wormhole. And it's on Peacock, by the way. It's called, what's it called? I believe it's called Joe Montana Cool Under Pressure. Just go to Peacock and type in Joe Montana. I'm sure you'll find it. And I'm watching, and halfway through, I'm just like, fuck, it's hard to climb over the Montana gap for Brady. Like, that shit was difficult for him. It took the 28-3 comeback before everyone universally said, okay, he's over Montana. It's over. Like, it's done. It's fine. Brady's a GOAT. And that was year, 17 for Brady? 16, 17? Again, I'm not going to hold Mahomes to the longevity standard if he has the accomplishments before he gets to that point. If he gets to 4 or 5 Super Bowls before he turns 35, I'm not going to be like, oh, well, he's not 40 yet, so it doesn't matter. Fuck that, no. If he has the accomplishments to match, he has the accomplishments to match. It doesn't matter when the fuck he gets it done. But all I'm saying is, back to the Montana point, why I brought up the documentary. As I'm watching this career that Joe Montana is going through, and I'm just like, shit, I don't think my generation and a little older or a little younger really have a grasp of this Joe Montana thing. Joe Montana was cold. Oh my God. I mean, like, this is a different level of talent. And the point that does work against Mahomes is we've seen Montana and Brady's entire career, so we see what they look like as older players. We don't know what Mahomes is going to look like yet. And we can't just bank on he's going to be this level of player his entire career, because that's not how the NFL works. Tom Brady's the only one who was able to throw for 4,500 yards in his last season of his career. He's the only one. He's the anomaly. But, and I don't want to do too much projecting to the following year. The interesting thing is, let's say it's 365 days from now, and I'm doing another podcast saying, hey guys, Kansas City just won the Super Bowl again. No team in NFL history has ever three-peated. Now we're having a different conversation, because now he's done something that none of these other quarterbacks have done. He'll be 4-1 in Super Bowls. Let's just say he doesn't play a wild card game. He'll be 18-3 in the playoffs. 4 Super Bowl rings in. Let's say he wins another Super Bowl MVP. He won the first 3, so it's not a wild assumption to say he is. He'll have Montana's accomplishments before turning 30. So you'd have to be at 2 at that point, right? I don't feel like I'm jumping the gun on that one. But at this very moment, I have him comfortably at 3. He jumped Manning, right? And this is where my Patriots bias jumps in because I'm not a big Peyton Manning fan. Having him at 3 irked my soul, but I had to be honest about it. It's like, are there 4 or 5 quarterbacks all time better than Peyton Manning? Absolutely not. But now there's 3. There's definitely 3. So salute to Mahomes. Outstanding player. Outstanding season. I honestly can't believe what the hell we've been watching this year. Andy Reid's conversation is a little bit different, though, because the coaching conversation, I touched on this a little bit last week. The coaching GOAT conversation is such a tough one because you're talking about pioneers of the game in Mount Rushmore. Like 3 of those spots are already taken regardless of what happens in the future. George Halas, Vince Lombardi, and Paul Brown are not coming off that mountain. Unless in the future it turns to like a basketball thing where it's like, all right, yeah, Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, and Jerry West are all GOATs, but how the fuck am I supposed to compare them to like Kobe Bryant? You know what I mean? Like, where's the comparison there? It's not really a fair shake at it. But now Andy Reid has the same amount of accomplishments as a Bill Walsh. And last week I said if he won this one, he would pass Bill Walsh in the offensive genius rankings, which will put him at number 1. And then I had some old heads pull me to the side. I was like, hey, my brother, come in. let me pull your coat. Let me pull your coat. Just because that West Coast offense by Bill Walsh was a little more innovative, had a little more impact. You can still see the impact the West Coast offense has today. The Shanahan system that is taking over the league and we just saw in the Super Bowl. Hell, Andy Reid is a West Coast system disciple under Mike Holmgren. He's like a grandson of the West Coast system. And this is iteration 3 of it, from McNabb to Alex Smith to now Mahomes. But if Andy Reid makes the playoffs again next year, that'll break his tie at 19 with Don Shula and Bill Belichick for the most playoff appearances of all time. He'll have 20. 20 seasons going to the playoffs in 26 years as a head coach. Games coached in the playoffs, Belichick has 44, which is obviously the most. If he wins the Super Bowl next year, he will tie him. If they play a wild card game, he'll pass him if they win the Super Bowl. It'll put him at, again, if he plays a wild card game, that'll put him at 29 wins in comparison to Bill Belichick's 31 all time. And then in terms of Super Bowls, right now, Andy Reid just won his 3rd, tying him with Joe Gibbs and Bill Walsh. And he's behind Chuck Noll and Bill Belichick, who are at 6 and 4 respectively. So I am interested in seeing what ends up happening with Andy Reid in terms of the greatest coach ever conversations. I would like for him to be up there just because you look at these Andy Reid teams from even the Eagles era. They're so fucking fun to watch. And honestly, I would like an offensive genius from my era to get that type of love to where when I'm an old head and whatever newfangled offensive genius my grandkid or some young kid I like to watch says is better than Andy Reid, I can pull them to the side the same way the OGs pulled me to the side about Bill Walsh and was like, hey, young fella, come here, let me holler at you. This ain't what you think. This ain't what you think it is. Last thing for the Chiefs. This is the worst Chiefs team of the Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes era. I don't expect them to be any worse than this. All the things that we said were wrong with the Kansas City Chiefs were 100% true. The receiving issues were true. Travis Kelce had 93 yards. No one else had more than 60. The offensive tackles, lackluster. They were getting their lunch eaten in the first round. All these things are true. The defense was just whooping ass all game long. So that's what ended up being the difference in the end. This upcoming offseason, their main free agents they have to sign. Honestly, Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed are like line 1, must re-sign at all cost. Figure this the hell out so we can get this 3P going. Even if it means losing everybody else. Except, the Donovan Smith thing is interesting because there is a chance that he just retires. But you have to replace him because if you don't, then that means Jawan Taylor's now your starting left tackle, and I don't think that's a good situation for anybody, including Jawan Taylor. So you might want to figure that one out. Linebackers, Willie Gay Jr. and Drew Tranquill, you're obviously going to have to replace those guys, if not re-sign them, because those are pretty important guys on the defense, and I just finished talking about how great the defense has been this year. So you got to get that one handled. All right, I've got all my, but the Chiefs have $23.9 million in cap space going into the offseason, and they have obviously the last pick in the first round. And if there was ever a draft where you needed a wide receiver, god damn it, this is the one where you can get Brandon Rice from USC, who I think is fucking awesome. You could probably get him in like the 3rd round because of how deep this class is. And if I'm the Chiefs, I'm drafting at least 2. Because although they came into this season rolling over their problems from next year, like, their receivers aren't that great, the offensive line isn't that great, and they repeated anyways, I just don't know how long you can keep playing with fire like that, even with how good Patrick Mahomes is. That's just not something I'd want to test, me personally.